What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Team Stanio Live. My name is Eric Stanio with Keller Williams Realty and TeamStanio.com, where we are helping you find your home and strengthen your family. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. Happy Easter weekend. I'm having an awesome weekend so far. Super excited about tomorrow. I hope you are having a great weekend as well. Big week here in Cincinnati. Reds opening day. Winter is over. Spring is alive. The boys of summer are here. I think they just took a lead in the eighth. So if you guys are watching, let me know if the Reds hold on and win that second one. Maybe it'll be a 1990 wire-to-wire team. Wouldn't that be great? Hey, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Obviously, huge news in terms of the NAR settlement that's been in the headlines. I want to just separate fact from fiction tonight. I want to talk through. I've been wanting to do this for a little bit. I wanted to jump in last week, but had some family events that couldn't get here for it. So this week we're going to talk through, we're going to look at some of those scary headlines that are out there because there are a lot of them. A lot of people are trying to figure out what is going on. How's this going to shape industry? Is the real estate market going to crash? Do I ever have to pay a commission again? So we're going to go through all those different things tonight and kind of help you guys separate fact from fiction. We're going to get very practical. I'm going to show you the actual agreements that we're using right now and what you can expect to happen in the months to come when the settlement actually finally gets approved, because it's not actually approved yet. So we'll get into all of that. Stay tuned for that. If you want to know the details of what is going on and separating fact from fiction and busting myths that are out there into what is actual reality, then you're at the right place tonight. As always, if you guys are watching the channel, let us know where you're watching from. Feel free to answer or ask any questions tonight. I know there's a lot of questions going on around this settlement. Hopefully we're going to hit all that covered. There's a little bit of real estate news, but mostly, and some new developments that are coming in. Mostly tonight, what I want to focus on is what's going on with this NAR settlement and how does that impact you, whether you are a buyer or seller in the Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky area. All right, so let's get into it. Alex, what's up? What's your Reds season prediction? I was listening to a few podcasts this week and trying to get a feel for this team. Obviously, we got bit by the injury bug, and I forget the name of the player who got the suspension. That was a blow as well. I mean, if they could stay healthy, they seem like a fun, exciting team. Can we hit that, 85 to 90 wins and win the division and get in the playoffs? That would be great. I would love to see that. I'm excited because I've been such a big Bengals fan the last few years and been doing my thing in real estate. Traditionally, I am definitely a baseball fan. Got my bobblehead tonight, Mr. Redlegs. And I played baseball growing up. That was my number one sport. That was the sport I was best at. I played basketball and golf as well, but short man syndrome. Once I hit high school, I kind of bailed on basketball. But baseball was my sport. Pitcher, shortstop was kind of my main thing till I tore my rotator cuff and then broke my collarbone. But yeah, love baseball. I don't know if the Reds can get to the playoffs. I would love that because I know the Bengals are going to the playoffs again this year. In fact, we're going to win the whole thing, I think. I don't know, Alex. What about you? We're gonna make it this year. Looks like a fun team. I mean, last year. And by the way, guys, if you don't know about Cincinnati, you need to know kind of about what we got going on with opening day here in the city. Opening day, here, take a look at this photo right here, is like a national holiday in Cincinnati. It's like everyone is like, yes, winter is over. Nobody does opening day like Cincinnati. It's amazing. Everyone, suddenly seems to get a sickness on the week of opening day. You're skipping work. I was always jealous when I was younger. One of my friends, Whitney Benson, his family had season tickets, and he was always gone on opening day. And I was sitting there doing math in like third grade, and history and English, and he was there at the game. I was always super jealous. But I've taken my kids down to the parade, which is super fun all the time. This is down at the banks, and you can just see, like, we do it right here in Cincinnati. Like, we know it's a big day for a party, and it's just, there's nothing like it, right? There's nothing like being at the ballpark. It's my favorite sport to attend, not necessarily because of all the excitement that comes with baseball, though I do think it's really exciting. I think when you know about the game, obviously, the intricacies and what makes baseball exciting. But I just love the sounds. I love the smells. Most importantly to me, like I love the rhythm of baseball. I love the pace of baseball. I get why they are trying to speed up the games and all that, because none of us have any attention spans anymore. But if I was the commissioner of baseball, I would lean into it and I would be like, nope, everything else is shorts and TikToks and reels and zero attention span. But baseball is not. We are going to lean into the fact that we are old and we are slow, and you should come here and you should put your phones away, and you should. It's the one sport where you can, when you go to a game with someone, you can actually have a conversation. That's why I love the flow of it. It's like there's the rhythm of the pitches. There's a time in between pitches. It's and soccer and football, and basketball, they're all very different for different ways. But they're usually, the excitement is more, I don't know, I guess football, you have breaks in between snaps too. But I love baseball. I love the sights. I love the smells. It's my favorite sport. It will always be my favorite sport, even though I know way more about the Bengals right now than I actually do about the Reds. So I am super excited to, that's right, Tabernacle. Let's go Reds. Keep me posted, because I'm going to be doing this live if we win this game and go up 2-0 on the season. So if you haven't been to Cincinnati in opening day, put it on your list. Just know, like, this is a young team. They're going to have a lot of fun. And opening day is just a special day in Cincinnati. It's nobody else does it like us. So pumped for that. Okay. So hope you guys are enjoying the weekend. And again, I hope you're enjoying your Easter weekend. Today is Saturday. It's Dark Saturday. Last night we, with my church, we got together and had all the kids. We always meet with all the kids, but we did a Stations of the Cross, which was very tangible, practical way to tell the story about Good Friday. And then we kind of left it in this very solemn, somber tone, which is where we've been leaving it today, because Sunday's coming and the hope is coming and the resurrection. And sorry, I know everyone out there watching is not a Christian. That's totally okay. No worries on that. For me, Easter is like my favorite holiday of the year. My whole life rests on it, and the hope that comes from this, from the belief in this story. And every year, watching the story just gets richer and richer. My 11-year-old son felt bad. He's so sensitive. He's like amazing. And I'm just weeping because on our way to the service last night, we had dinner at home, and I was reading something to the kids about the story. And then on the way there, we turned on some music from both Andrew Peterson, who's one of my favorite artists of all time, and a local band here, the Never Setting Suns. Shout out Corey Larison, Chris Courts, and Tyler Griffin, who made an album. Man, it's probably been 15 years now, 12, 15 years. But they made this rock album that's kind of around the Easter story as well that got me in the mood. So by the time we got to the Stations of the Cross with my church, I was just like weeping, and my son was like, "Why are you crying?" And I'm like, "It's so beautiful." Like, I can't help it. There's no question I'm gonna be the weepiest old man grandpa. And I'm here for it. I'm down with that. So, all right, let's transition over to what is going on in this real estate world, because it is crazy, folks. And I just want to show some of the headlines that are out here. I'm not going to read all these articles, but I'm sure you've seen it. I've been wanting to get out ahead and get this news out to you guys on what's going on. But there's just headline after headline. The seismic NAR, I hear it both ways, but the National Association of Realtors, NAR lawsuit settlement will transform the home buying industry. That one's pretty minor. Here's the Washington Post. The realtors settlement could dramatically change costs of housing sales. The proposed deal with the National Association of Realtors would upend the rules that critics say help inflate commissions for home sellers. Those stinking realtors with their inflated commissions. The 6% commission on buying or selling a home is gone after Realtors Association agrees to a seismic settlement. There's just one after. I mean, you don't have to go far to find these headlines. That was CNN, Yahoo Finance. The Realtor Commission change delivers a boon to home builders and a blow to real estate platforms. I actually think that's somewhat true in terms of the platforms and the MLS. We are going to get into that. The NAR, here's another one. The NAR lawsuit settlement could mean more costs for buyers, which could. I think unlikely. Changes from the settlement may also shake up how the mortgage industry operates. So everything's shaking up. Everything's being redone. We'll see if it's true. Teddy, what is up? April Fool's alert. We can save a life or your life's saving. Right on. Okay. So, all right. Here's, I'm going to start getting into the truth about this. Okay. So a lot of headlines out there. Definitely was talking to some clients. They're like, do we need to sign something right now? What happens? People who are doing new construction who are like, I don't know, like, do I have to sign this by a broker agreement? Is the builder still going to pay the commission to you? Can I still use you? A lot of questions, good questions. Let's start getting into the reality of what actually is happening with this agreement and what it means for you. Okay, so this is from the NAR, the NAR, National Association of Realtors. And this headline is called The Truth About the NAR Settlement Agreement. Misinformation has been pervasive in the media over real estate commissions, no doubt. Here are the facts you should know, both in media and on Twitter. My Twitter is just like blowing up with people like, realtors are worthless, they shouldn't be paid anything. And then you've got other realtors who are like, this is why I've sold my kid to sell you a house and why I deserve every single penny. And it's like, all right, let's just try to I don't know, go down the middle a little bit here, guys, and just everyone calm down. Okay, let's get into this. The national, I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can maybe see it. There we go. Yeah, we'll go right there. The national conversation around real estate commissions reached a crescendo since the National Association of Realtors announced a settlement agreement that would resolve litigation brought on behalf of home sellers related to broker commissions. Okay, so that was the charge kind of brought. They're coming after the commissions. Brokers and agents have their own questions about what comes next for their businesses, while at the same time trying to answer consumer inquiries. So that's why I'm doing this tonight. I'm going to try to answer some consumer inquiries, hopefully point back to this in the future so you guys can kind of see what's going on. I'm going to make this a little, I don't know. All right, we'll go there. Let's clear the air. I'm sorry, where would I end? Many headlines aren't separating fact from fiction, feeding misinformation to you and your clients. Now, granted, this article is kind of written to us, the realtors, but I think it's really helpful for you, and I'll kind of explain it as we go from a consumer standpoint. Let's clear the air. There's no doubt the litigation, including copycat lawsuits that were filed after the Itzer Burnett verdict, that was the name of the case, caused considerable uncertainty in an industry already dealing with the effects of low inventory and interest rate increases. Been talking about that a lot on the channel, what's going on in the market in terms of inventory and rates. And now we've got this lawsuit and a lot of confusion that came with it. The settlement, which must be approved by a judge, provides, so that's one important thing. This is actually not approved yet by the judge. So that still needs to happen, still needs to go by the DOJ. It's likely going to happen, but it's not fully approved yet. It provides a path forward for real estate professionals, realtor associations, brokerages, MLSs, and other industry stakeholders. Most importantly, it gives NAR members a chance to refocus on their core mission to support buyers and sellers. So that's what I want to talk about tonight, how we get back to that, and what does it mean for you. All right, facts first. There's much the media has gotten wrong about NAR settlement, which would require the association to pay $418 million over 4 years. So it's not chump change. Some outlets have suggested that the NAR previously set or guided commissions to a standard rate of 6%. Even President Joe Biden in recent comments misspoke in suggesting that the settlement makes commissions negotiable for the first time. Even President Joe Biden in recent comments misspoke. President Biden misspoke? I can barely believe it. That the settlement makes commissions negotiable for the first time. That's not true. They've always been negotiable. You know that is false. NAR does not, and again, this is, I'm reading this article and then I'm going to jump to another article that's a little bit more, that's written not just for realtors, but for consumers. NAR does not set commissions, and commissions were negotiable long before this settlement. So that's a big point I want to make tonight, which is commissions have always been negotiable. One big thing that this is doing is we're adding transparency. a phrase that you are going to hear a lot is that the commissions are being decoupled. So in the past, seller commissions paid 6% that generally covered the 3% to the co-op buyer's agent, and that's being decoupled now. So the buyer knows on the front end how much they're going to pay their agent. We're going to get more into that. That's just a little tease of what's going on here. But they've always been negotiable. They are and will remain entirely negotiable between brokers and their clients. And housing prices are dictated by market forces beyond the members' control. So a lot of the headlines were kind of like, yeah, once the real estate agents get paid less, then the housing prices are going to come down. Hate to break it to you, buyers, even if commissions do come down, even if they get negotiated and you're like, you're not worth it, agents, you're going to get less money. Housing prices are not going to come down. We'll talk about that a lot more as we go, but we're going to get into it. I'm going to read an article that's going to go through myths and busting those myths. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as we go forward here. Getting the facts right is important, especially because the settlement agreement is complex. NAR is continuing to engage with media to correct inaccurate reporting about the settlement. And I watched an interview with the NAR president this week, and he was because the story kind of broke on the New York Times first, and then it just like blew up. And the interviewer asked the president, like, why didn't you get out in front of this? Like, why didn't you spin the story? He's like, it leaked, they got out, and then it's just like, we're basically trying to mop up a lot of bad headlines. Members are also encouraged to refer to the resources, blah, blah, blah. The settlement achieves two important goals: protecting members, so that's MLS member, NAR members, to the greatest extent possible, and preserving consumer choice. So that's a big part of this, is like the National Association of Realtors always wants to have consumer choice. We want you to know that commissions are negotiable. We want to be transparent. We want you to understand what kind of agreement you're getting into. Tonight on this channel, I'm going to actually show you the current agreements we have, both a listing agreement and a buyer's agency agreement. Those will likely get tweaked in the months to come, but I want to show you what's out there and kind of what's happening so you guys aren't blindsided or confused by any of this. The proposed settlement does two things. Number one, resolves claims against NAR and nearly every member, all state, territorial, and local realtor associations, all association-owned MLSs, and all brokerages with an NAR member. So basically, okay, the settlement resolves claims against all those members. And number two, it preserves cooperative compensation as an option for consumers looking to buy or sell a home, as long as such offers of compensation occur off the MLS. We're going to get into this in more detail, but sellers can still offer cooperative commission to buyer's agents. You just can't advertise it on the MLS. Okay, so there's going to be a new way that we're doing this. It's going to be one extra step. The way that you're going to do this is not on the MLS, which right now, if you're a buyer and you want to buy a home, on the MLS, you can advertise as a seller 3% to the buyer broker. So everyone knows that. What this settlement does is it removes it from the MLS, but it can go to other places. Namely, it can go on the broker's own website. So there's and more than likely what's going to happen is other kind of third-party sites are going to pop up. The market's going to find a way to figure out how to know if the seller is offering a co-op commission or not. But what's happening is the buyer knows on the front end commissions are being decoupled. I'm doing a bad job of explaining this. Keep listening to me as we read through these articles. But the buyer will know on the front end, hey, I'm paying you, my buyer's agent, ahead of time, or I know what I'm paying you. It's not that you're free. A buyer's agent is not free. They never were free. The buyer's agent received their commission, the broker, from the seller, and it's usually 6%. 3% to the listing broker, 3% to the buyer's broker. Now that's just being separated up front. It's being decoupled, and how that gets negotiated. The what is not changing. The how and the when is what's changing. Okay, there's still going to be a listing agent. There's still going to be a buyer's agent. There's still going to be a commission to both of them. The what is not changing at all. There's still going to be a seller. There's still going to be a buyer. Homes are still going to be transacted. The how and the when of when that takes place, that's what's being changed. Okay. All All right. So what up, Colin? Probably will be listed on Showing Time. Yep, which is owned by Zillow. So I think a big win in all of this, and I don't know if I've seen too many articles on this yet, is that it is a blow to the MLS, because if the MLS can no longer advertise 3% co-op or whatever the percent is, the co-op commission, these other portals, these other platforms are going to advertise. They're going to figure out a way around the rules. So what I think this actually was, as not as much as a blow to agents and their commissions. I think it's a blow from larger tech companies who want to grab the listings for themselves, the Zillows of the world. And if they're the ones who can say, hey, you can't see on the MLS anymore what the co-op is, but you can on our site, then there's going to be a shift in just where the traffic flows to find that information. That's likely what's going to happen. Boo. So yeah, Cullen, I'd love to hear your thoughts in here, because I know I'm sure you've been watching this, and Berkshire Hathaway is not named in the settlement, right? So I'm curious what's going on there. Okay, so let's continue. NAR fought for a release that covered all industry players, but large settlements reached by other corporate defendants shaped the negotiations. Throughout the settlement process, NAR also engaged with a diverse range of members to consider their perspectives and interests. Blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, we're trying to cover our members. How to know if you're covered, blah, 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 blah. Here's like different brokerages. You guys don't need to know that. But here is something that's really important to you. So go back here. The settlement, so changing business practices and how this kind of impacts you guys, the consumers. The settlement agreement also mandates two key changes to the way members and MLS participants do business. Number one, the NAR agreed to create a new MLS rule prohibiting offers of compensation on the MLS. So I've hinted at this already, but this is what is actually going to happen as long as this passes. This would mean that offers of compensation could not be communicated via an MLS, but they could continue to be an option consumers could pursue off MLS through negotiation and consultation with real estate professionals. So, like I mentioned before, currently what's happening is when you go to the MLS, I can pull that up, but when I as an agent goes to the MLS, Mr. Buyer says, I want to go see this house. I go look at the listing and it says right there, and it's syndicated through Zillow, through realtor.com, through homes.com. It says buyer agency compensation or co-op compensation. Usually that's 3%. And so everyone knows, okay, the seller's willing to pay 3% to the buyer's agent. Great. That's how like 90% of the transactions work, maybe 95. Going forward, you can't advertise that on the MLS. So it's going to happen either on the broker's website or maybe in some other place, or you let's say I'm working for you, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, you say, I want to go see this houses. Then I'm like, okay, I either go to that broker's website or I shoot a text to the listing agent and I say, are you offering a buyer's broker commission? And they're going to say, yes, we are, because we want people to come buy this house. And I go, great. Okay, great. Let's go show the house. So that's number one. Cullen again says, I worry that the MLS will become segmented like commercial is, and then traditional MLS may die decentralizing things. That could definitely happen. I mean, the MLS is a centralized force right now, so it probably is going to break up. And currently, bringing up commercial, it's a great point, because the way the idea of a buyer negotiating for his rate in the offer already happens on all commercial deals. This is not a new thing to real estate. So again, the what is not changing, the how and the when is changing. And so what will likely happen is, if the seller is not offering a commission, another way that the buyer's agent can get paid is you can write into the contract, seller to pay the buyer's agent 3% or whatever you've negotiated with your buyer's agent. Another way is through concessions from the seller, that it's not directly, so you can give concessions for all kinds of things, closing costs, all kinds of different things. And you can write in the offer from the buyer, those concessions are to go to pay the buyer's agent commission. So there's a lot of ways to do this. So yeah, Cullen continues. Supposedly, part of the settlement is that agents will no longer have to join local boards of MLSs, which leads me back to the decentralization of things like commercial. Yeah, I mean, things are going to change. There's going to be some dust that settles. It's not that nothing is changing. It's that, but at the end of the day, I honestly don't think a whole lot is going to change. And I'll continue to point out why I think that is as we go along. In fact, there's one other article I pulled up. Did I pull it up? Yeah. So Barbara Cochran, if you guys know her from Shark Tank, she said it's causing total confusion in real estate. But basically what she says in this article is like, there's a lot of bad headlines out there and causing confusion. And she says the sellers will have to make good with the buyers in order to help boost the price and sales of their homes, even if it means coming out of their own pockets for the myriad of things that could arise. However, she maintains that the ruling is not a big deal, but rather it's the confusion it has raised that is the real problem. And that's what I'm hearing from basically anyone who's been in the business for a long time is they're like, yeah, this is not really a big deal. You just got to communicate with your buyers and sellers. The what is changing, or the what is not changing, the how and the when is changing. And so I'll get into this in just a minute in terms of the buyer broker agreement in just 1 second here. So the second thing that it does, yeah, great point, Colin. So who this is, the second thing that's going to happen, and let me read this and then I'll get to Colin's comment. The NAR also agreed to create a new rule requiring MLS participants working with buyers to enter into written agreements with their buyers before the buyer tours a home. I'm going to come back to Colin's comment in just a second. The NAR has long encouraged its members to use written agreements to help consumers understand exactly what services and value they provide and for how much. Okay, so this is a change for most people in the Cincinnati and other Kentucky area. Most real estate agents who work with buyers don't use buyer broker agreements or buyer agency agreements. What does that mean? An agency agreement is basically a document of how you hire someone, how you hire an agent, okay? So everyone knows, or you're probably familiar with signing a listing agreement, okay? A listing agreement is when you as a seller say, I want to sell my house, and maybe you interview a few different agents, they come to your house, they make their pitch, they tell you their thoughts on pricing, on strategy, maybe what you should do with the house, and then to hire them, you have to fill out a listing agreement. In fact, I'm going to show you guys. Darn it, session timed out. I'm going to show you guys in 1 second here the listing agreement. Should have brought this up as a PDF. Stupid DocuSign. 1 second. All right. If you've ever sold a house, loading, you may have seen a document like this before. 1 second. All right. Here's a listing agreement. It's very simple. Okay. So this is an exclusive right to sell listing contract. All right. It's between the broker. In my case, I work for Keller Williams Advisors Realty. Well, I don't work for them. They're my broker. And it says you would name the address. The realtor says, yes, I accept. Because this is basically just a document that says, would you like to hire me? Oh, great. You would like to hire me. This is the document I need you to sign to hire me. So the realtor says, I accept that you want to hire me. This says what you're going to put in the sale. I want to scroll down. I'm not going to hit up every clause on this. What I want to show you guys is where you currently pay the realtor the commission. Okay. So here's the clause. Paragraph 14. The seller agrees to pay a realtor a commission of either blank dollars or blank percent of the gross selling price, regardless of agency relationships. In the event that within the exclusive listing period, a seller conveys or agrees to convey the real estate, or a realtor or any person procures a written offer to purchase from a buyer who is ready, willing, and able to purchase the real estate for the listed price or any other price acceptable to the seller, unless the closing does not take place due to no fault of the seller. Okay, let me break that down. Contract language. in 99% of the listings I've ever taken, I fill out in this field 6%. That's what's standard here in the Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky area, that you as the seller agree to pay a total commission of 6%. And that's going to go if I do my job. And my job is what it says right here, is to bring you a buyer who is ready, willing, and able to purchase the real estate. That's my job. And so I go out and do my marketing things and bring you a bunch of buyers, given my experience, my expertise, my marketing skills, using the MLS, everything I have to bring you buyers, and my strategy and all that stuff. That's any agent. So this next paragraph is a protection period. So let's say you didn't get it sold in, because this also has a time period right at the beginning of when. So it says it begins on this date, and there's an expiration date. So typically I'll do like 6 months for a listing contract in this market. It's just an easy number. And what I usually tell my sellers is, if I don't have your home sold in 6 months, I give you actually what I usually tell them is like, if I don't have your home sold in 2 months, you can fire me. Like, because if I've done my job correctly in this market, in a seller's market where there's low inventory and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to sell your house because there's more demand than supply, I just tell people, you can fire me. Like, if I've done my job bad, I mean, maybe we can talk about the price. Maybe something came up that we didn't realize, but like, anyway, there's an expiration period. Okay. Back to the contract. The next thing I want to show you guys is this paragraph right here, cooperation with other brokers. So typically, now again, I said 90%, whatever, 95%, this is 6%, but that number is negotiable. It always has been negotiable. You can say, I don't want to pay 6%. If you're the seller, Mr. Agent, I only want to pay 5%, or I only want to pay 4%. And I can say, okay, like, you can do that. Actually, that's not what I say. I usually say that's a bad idea. Let me tell you why. But if a seller says, no, I want you to take 2%, I'll pay 3% to the buyer's agent, but I want you to take 2 or 1.5 or 1. I usually say, no, I'm not going to do that, because I'm good at my job, and I'm going to bring you a buyer and get you the price that you want. And if I'm willing to take less money on my commission, what am I going to do when it comes to negotiating the offers that come to you? And by the way, anyone who's out there who's hiring an agent, like, ask yourself that question. Okay, it's a very important question, because there's going to be a lot of agents out there who are willing to take less commission now, because like, everything is changing. It's a seismic change. And I'll just give you a warning right now. The agents who are not very good at their jobs, who do not have a solid value proposition to bring to you, whether that's helping you sell your home or helping you buy your home, they're going to say, yeah, I'll take 2%. Like, whatever, I'll take 2. Those agents typically are not, they're not some of the higher producing agents already. Now they're going to get less deals. Now they're going to make less money. They're going to be out of the business. So one prediction I do have in all this is like, after the dust settles and and people are like, well, I want to give you 2%. There's going to be this is going to clear a lot of the agents out of the business, which for me, I'm kind of like, oh, great. Because not to brag, but I and my team know what we're doing. We know the value that we bring, and what's going to happen. And I've heard this again. This is not just me saying this. Like, I've been kind of researching top realtors who've been doing this for a lot longer than I have, all over the nation, and listening to them, and they're all saying the same thing. The rich are going to get richer, and the poor are going to get poorer. Like, the agents that are really good, they're going to get more market share. The agents who are willing to bend on this, they're going to make less money, and then they're going to have to fold out of the business. Now, Colin brings up a good point of what about VA buyers? So the same point I'm saying about rich, richer, and poor, poorer, I think is also, this could impact poorer buyers. And that's what's really sad about this to me, is if buyers have to pay the agent. Now, I think most of those commissions are still going to be paid by sellers in general, because the point is, as a seller, you still want the most exposure to your home. That's the most important thing. You want buyers, because if all the buyers, you put a house on the market and you say 2%, and the buyer, just think about this for a second. Colin, I'm going to get to your comment. But think about this for 1 second. Buyers are going to have to sign this buyer agency agreement. I'm going to show you what that looks like next here. And it's going to say what they have to pay the realtor up front. So they have to agree before you can go see a house. You have to agree that I'm going to pay my buyer's agent, whatever that is. And again, typically that's been 3%. Typically, I think it's going to stay 3%. Okay. And so you're agreeing that you're going to pay it. Now the agent, they're going to try, and I'll show you this again in the buyer's broker agency agreement in just a second. They're going to try to get that money from the seller or in concessions, or you can wrap that commission potentially into the purchase of your home. And if there's anything left over, maybe you'll have to pay for it. Now, if that doesn't get paid, who that will hurt are the buyers who are poorer, right? Who can't afford a buyer's agent. They can't pay any of that extra commission out of their pocket because they've got closing costs and they've got down payment costs, et cetera. They can't afford to pay for an agent as well. And I think, sadly, that could potentially hurt, to Cullen's point here, VA or FHA buyers who don't have as much cash on the front end to hire an agent. So that is something that I think that could be an unintended consequence here. So this is the current listing agreement. I want to go back to this article again on what's changing. So again, just to remind you guys, this is the change that is happening. There's a new rule where buyers have to enter into a written agreement with their buyer's agent before they tour a home. The NAR has long encouraged its members to use written agreements to help consumers understand exactly what services and value they provide and for how much. So just like I showed you a listing agreement, like if you want to hire an agent to sell your home, you have to sign that listing agreement. Say, yes, I want to hire you. Yes, I'll pay 6%. 3% is going to you. 3% is going to the buyer's agent. Sign on the dotted line. Now this is not as standard, I would say, in our area, but it's going to be like everyone is going to be doing these buyer broker agreements. And by the way, these exist already. In fact, I already have clients this week starting to sign these. And again, it's not all that complicated. All this is a document that says, I'm going to hire you, Mr. Agent, to help me buy a home. Now previously, what's going on right now is like, if you want to see a house and you see it on Zillow or whatever, you just you click that number on Zillow, like, I want to see this house. And whoever's paying for that Zillow ad gets a call, actually like multiple people, and they're all racing to call you. And like, they go show you a house. My broker, her name's Sarah Close. I guess I should say my operator here at the Advisors. She calls this being a Pop-Tart agent, where you just stick yourself in a toaster, and then when a buyer calls you to see a house, you pop up. You're like, yeah, I'll go show you the house. Like, will you hire me? Like, I'll show you anything. Just please give me a commission. And she's like, don't do that. Don't be a Pop-Tart agency. Like what professionals do in the business is when buyers are like, hey, I want to see a house, is we go great. Let's talk about that. We're going to have a buyer consultation, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about your situation and what you're looking for and your needs and your wants and your budget and the areas you want to look for. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do for you. And I'm going to explain the process to you. And I'm going to explain to you the value that I bring to you as a buyer's agent. And then now currently I will say this, for me personally, I haven't done a lot of these I've done sometimes when I feel like the buyer is a little shady, honestly, in the past, like where I'm like, I don't know if I can like trust this completely. But if somebody wants to get out of one of these agreements, I'm always like, yeah, I'd rather get out of the agreement. If something's going so wrong in my service to you that you want to fire me or you're unhappy, I would much rather just kind of let you walk and cancel this contract than for you to like blast a 1-star review and be like, blah, Eric's terrible. It's not worth it to me. And this is a big reason why I do YouTube and make content like this, because I'm trying to educate. Like when people contact me and my team to use Team Stanio to whether you're selling or buying a house, I want you to see my content that's out there. I want you to read my reviews before, like a typical lead form that I get from you guys, which thank you for watching, thank you for writing in, and thank you for being my clients, is like, hey, I've been watching your channel for like a year. We're buying a house this spring. When can we meet? And it's like, great. And so I've tended to not do a lot of these buyer agency contracts because usually the people who contact me, at least via YouTube or through social channels, have seen the content. They already kind of know what we're about. They're like, oh, that guy looks like he's somewhat competent. And there's already trust and rapport built. And so I haven't implemented these, even though I do know it's best practice. Going forward, there's not going to be a choice. And so we're going to have to do these. But nothing's in our process, really nothing is changing, because when someone reaches out to us to use our team and our services, we've already been doing buyer consultations, and we've already been sharing our value proposition. And so the phone call I had this week, my buyers were like, we're first time home buyers. We walked through the process. We did the value, we talked through about buying a home, and they're like, okay, great. What are the next steps? And I say, I'm going to send you this paper. You have to sign it to hire me. They're like, okay. And they signed it. And now we're going to go see homes. So again, it's not very complicated. Let me show you guys what this looks like. And again, this could change slightly the wording, as like I said, the settlement's not totally in law yet. It's not fully agreed on. It's got to be approved by a judge. But there's no question that the MLSs will kind of update the listing contract more than likely, and probably this one. But this is looks very similar. It should look very similar to this, right? This is exclusive right to sell listing contract. When it says exclusive right, that means you're hiring that agent only and no one else. Okay, that's what exclusive right to sell means. Exclusive buyer or a tenant agency contract is the same thing, except on the buyer side. And this one's even shorter than the listing contract. It's a 2-page document that says, here's my company, Keller Williams Advisors, here's you, and you're hiring me, okay? Here's the term, here's how long it is, that's negotiable. You could do this for one day for someone. If you want to go see a house and you want a Pop-Tart agent, you could just sign a 1-day contract exclusive, but you have to sign this before you go see the house. So no longer, once this thing gets settled, you can't just call an agent and be like, I want to go see a house. You have to actually sign this thing first. So, and what does this thing spell out? It spells out the term of the agency, the realtor's role, the client's role, client investigations, compensation of a realtor, other potential buyers, affiliated civil rights, governing laws, sole contract means you haven't signed it with anyone else, indemnity, client acknowledgement, you understand that you read this. All right, I want to go through this a little bit so you guys understand what this is. Alex has a question here before I get into this. How do you handle buyer-seller contracts if someone is moving up or down in house? I'm not sure I fully understand your question. I mean, it's basically these contracts. So the listing contract and the up or down in a house. I think if you're like moving up and buying a nicer house or moving down, you would sell a listing contract. If you're buying a house, you would sell this buyer agency contract going forward. I think that's what you're asking. If not, please clarify and I will answer. Okay. I just want to read through this again. I know you guys it's Saturday night and some of you are watching contracts on a real estate channel. So shout out to you guys who are going through real estate contracts on a Saturday night, the night before Easter. So, okay, the realtor's role. I want to read this. This is important. At all times, the realtor shall be governed ultimately by the state real estate licensing law, the regulations of the State Real Estate Commission. That's the board that kind of governs in Ohio, and all other laws applicable to real estate brokers and salespersons. Now, here's my job. The realtor shall make a diligent attempt to identify real estate that's suitable for the client. So again, if we've had a buyer consultation, then I know what real estate is suitable for you, right? Not that complicated. I know where you want to live. I know how much square foot you want, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what your budget is. So then I'm going to present to you different options that is suitable for you based upon the criteria provided by the client to the realtor in our buyer consultation that we had. The but may not have information on all real estate available that would meet client's criteria. So let's say I'm not a god in terms of knowing every single piece of real estate that's for sale that could meet your criteria. So, if you find something on Craigslist, like, sorry, I didn't look at Craigslist for you. And or be subject to this contract and shall assist client in. So here's my role. I'm going to help you identify suitable real estate, and I'm going to, and when I say I'm saying this is a buyer's agent's role. Okay, I'm going to assist you in negotiating, contracting, purchasing, leasing if you're renting, which there's very little of that happening on the residential side right now, or otherwise acquiring real estate, and I shall monitor the contract and the closing deadlines. That's my responsibility to you. You're hiring me to do those things, help you negotiate, help you fill out contracts because you haven't gone through contract law. I'm not an attorney, but we do have a little bit of knowledge about contracts. I'm going to help you purchase. I'm going to help you acquire it, and I'm going to monitor the contract and all the inspection deadlines and the appraisal contingency deadlines and your intent to proceed deadlines. That's why on our team, we have a transaction coordinator who is, her job is to know deadlines, and she's amazing at it. I say this in a loving way, she's a nerd for deadlines, okay? And her entire job is to read contracts after we sign them and make sure that those deadlines are on the calendar so that we don't mess anything up and screw up your contract. Tabernacle, I appreciate you. So I'm glad this is helpful. I'm going to keep going. Okay, now guess what? I read this recently and I was like, oh, this is great. Because not only does your real estate agent have a role, but you have a role in this. Yes, you out there in YouTube and Facebook world, you guys have a role as well. The client's role. The client shall work exclusively with the realtor for the purchase, exchange, or lease of real estate and will immediately identify themselves as a client of the realtor at any time when communicating with or viewing real property, such as, but not limited to, attending an open house, visiting a builder's model home or construction site, talking with a for sale by owner or any other licensee during the term of the contract. I'm going to show you guys something really quick. So, where's my latest videos? Let me show you this. Okay, where are we? So here's my channel, and recently I did this one. If you guys haven't watched this video, I said, don't do this with Fisher Homes. And that was like my most clickbaity thumbnail maybe ever. But if you want, it says, so the title of this is don't do this if you want to use a real estate agent when buying new construction, okay? And the reason why I said that is, let's go back to this. Fisher Homes recently kind of cracked down that if you don't, at the threshold meeting, so whether it's Fisher or really whether it's any builder, Drees, MI Homes, or Custom Builder, Five Daughters, Justin Doyle Homes, Ashford Homes, Zika, whoever, if you go and meet with their sales rep first without an agent, and you don't identify that you're working with an agent at that meeting, specifically Fisher Homes made this change, but I think others might follow suit. Right now, though, Drees is like, yeah, come over here. But Fisher Homes says we can't add an agent later in the process. So if you want to have a real estate agent when buying a new construction home, you've got to name them at the front end. You've got to let the agent basically introduce you at that threshold meeting to the builder. And so the agent is the procuring cause of the sale. Otherwise, they're not going to pay a commission to a real estate agent. And I don't know about you or other agents who are watching this. I don't know, Cullen, you can say, I don't really like to work for clients for free. And so if they're not going to add me later in the deal, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to represent you in the deal because I want to get paid. I've got kids. So going back to this, okay, this is your responsibility, the client. And this is good. This is clarity. This is like, people are freaking out about this. And I'm like, this is great. Like, there's more transparency. You understand my role. You understand your role. I understand your role. We're working together. We're gonna go buy you a home, or I'm not gonna buy you a home. You're gonna buy a home. I'm gonna help you find a suitable piece of real estate property for you. That's right. And you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to work exclusively with me. So I'm not going to be a Pop-Tart agent. I'm not going to go just show you a house because you want to see a house. I haven't done that. I don't do that anyway. If you're not pre-approved, no, we're not doing that. But like, there are a bunch of agents who do that. And that's why I'm like continuing to say like there are going to be agents getting out of this business because they don't have this process. They don't know how to sit down and do a buyer consultation. They don't know how to figure out your needs, or like they're just like they're buying Zillow leads or whatever, and they're just showing a house and they're like crossing their fingers, hoping that you don't have any connection with them, but they're just hoping you don't go to another agent. And I'm like, oh, that's a terrible way to do business. And those people are going to be gone, which is great. I think that's better for everyone. Maybe not for them, but maybe it'll help them. Sometimes we go through hard things and it wakes us up. Our team, very different. We do a buyer. You want to buy a house? Great. Let's talk about it. Let's have a consultation. Let's figure out what you're actually looking for. Explain to you what we're going to do, and then you can decide if you want to hire me. Okay? Not that complicated. It's great. Here's a 2-page document that says you can hire me. This is the new thing that's going into practice. Next thing. Okay. So here's what's making a lot of the headlines. This is already here. This form already exists. Okay. And let me read this. This is going to help you guys. This is the compensation of the realtor. Do buyers have to pay for buyer brokers? Yes, you already did. It's just the sellers paid for it. They're probably going to keep paying for it. Upon the client's execution of this contract, the client agrees to pay, and the realtor acknowledges receipt of a retainer fee. This is optional, but some realtors who are really good, and I'm considering this, can say like, hey, pay me $500 up front, just so like, because my time of the consultation and setting up the MLS and looking for homes and showings. So you can do a retainer fee up front. I probably won't do this, but you do it. As compensation for initial professional counseling, consultations, and research. What did I just say? So you could pay a retainer fee up front. Like the very best agents are going to be like, think about this with an attorney, right? Have you ever hired an attorney? Does the attorney ever do any work for you without a retainer fee? Okay. Now, I'm not saying real estate agents are on the same par as attorneys. You can like crack your professional jokes about how we're all losers in the comments and we're not professional. We're dumb. But I'm just saying like there's a space for it in this thing. Okay. So, okay. Said fee is non-refundable, but it either shall be or it shall not be credited against any compensation realtor due it payable. So if someone uses a retainer fee, that money is it's basically like a down payment on your commission. And it could be at closing, it would go towards the total commission being paid to the buyer, if buyers do that. Or you could do an exception. So there's so much flexibility here, guys. Again, the idea that they weren't negotiable before, this is not a new contract. This is the one that already exists. I'll take the blame and say realtors, we're doing a bad job of explaining this because we were just like, oh crap, we got to go show a house. Because the market's been crazy, but this has already existed. The client, let's move on. The client agrees to compensate the realtor as provided below if the client or any party acting on behalf of the client during the contractor term or within blank days after the expiration date with regard to real estate shown by the realtor purchases, exchanges, or leases, or agrees to purchase, exchange, or lease real estate for either X amount of dollars of rent or X amount of dollars or % of the purchase price. So generally, what you're going to see here is 3%. Right here. You're going to pay me 3%. That's the standard rate that has been here for a long time. And it's just, again, the what is not changing. Previously, you paid the buyer's agent 3%. It's just the seller paid for that in their 6%. Okay? There was 6% in the listing contract. Generally, 3% went to the listing broker, 3% went to the client's broker. And that was advertised in the MLS. So everyone knew what was going. Again, the what is not changing. The how and the when is changing. The when of when you know what you're paying the buyer's agent, the buyer's broker, is up front because you can't go see a house unless you sign this document. Now, again, this is negotiable. And so you could just sign this for like 2 weeks and say, I'll pay you $50 to go show me houses. That is an agreement. You can do that. I'm not going to sign that. Like, there might be other agents who will sign that. So again, like things could change on that front. And I guess that could help buyers maybe. But again, I think the buyers who are willing to do that, the buyers agents, I should say, they're not the best buyers agents. I know my worth. I know my value. I know that I'm going to help you get in the house, and I'm going to get the seller. More than likely, I'm going to get the seller to pay for this commission. But we're going to agree to this up front. That's what's changing. You have to understand that you're signing this document for whatever the time length is, and I'm going to get paid from you, but we're going to try to get the seller to pay for it still. Okay? All right. Moving on. Client agrees to cooperate with the realtor and authorizes the realtor to secure this payment. Let me read this. Client agrees to cooperate with the realtor and authorizes the realtor to secure this payment from the seller. Okay, again, this form might change, but as it stands currently, this form says you're going to get that money. Go get that money from the seller because I don't want to pay it. If the realtor is unsuccessful in obtaining all or part of the fee, the client does agree to pay the realtor the balance of the fee from the client's own funds at closing. So that's important. If we can't get that full 3% from the seller, you are agreeing to pay the balance of it, whatever is left. Client understands and agrees that the payment of the realtor's fee in whole or in part by the seller should not be construed to mean the realtor is an agent of the seller. So the seller could pay that commission, but I'm not working for the seller, or at least unless there's a dual agency, but typically I'm not. If the purchase, exchange, or lease contract between client and seller fails to close or to be extended because of any default on the part of the client, with the exception of a purchase, exchange, or lease contract contingencies, compensation of realtor will not be waived, but will be due and payable immediately. So basically that's saying if I did my job, you got to pay me. So that is a big change. There are other markets around the country where this is very standard. The stat I heard was that I think I heard 60% of the country already uses these. 40% do not. So a good chunk of, or was it the other way around? I think that was right. But 40% of agents around the country don't. But what's going to happen is there's going to be a giant wave where in July, likely, or August, where everyone has to use these things. You can't hire a buyer's agent without it. You can't go see a property without it. So for us and our team, again, we have a process. We have a consultation. This is just like at the end of that, like, hey, my rate is 3%. I'm going to do everything I can to get the seller to pay for that. But if not, you have to pay me that 3%. Now, there's other ways to do that besides just having cash too. There's a lot of ways to do that. Those are all going to spring up. It's not going to be seismic, everything changed. There's going to be some changes, but I think it's mostly going to be the same. Okay. So that's basically another contract. You both sign it and off you go. You're hired. Now you're working with your agent. There's one other, I got to text it. If you guys have questions, let me know. I hope this is helpful. I'm talking a lot. My throat's getting sore. A lot of talking tonight. I'm going to hopefully send this video out to clients and say, watch this on 2x speed. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. This last one, I'm going to bust some myths. When I was a young life leader, probably this was around 2006 or 7, there was a fall weekend camp here in Cincinnati. I think it was at Camp Kern. Shout out if anyone knows where Camp Kern is on the north side of Cincy. And myself and Tom Hansen, good friend and roommate of mine, were the weekend program for a fall weekend camp. And the show Mythbusters was popular. And so we dressed ourselves in redneck gear. And our whole shtick the whole weekend was we would just say stupid things and then like give a reason for that stupid thing and then go busted. And then we were just busting myths all weekend. We thought it was really funny. So we're going to bust some myths right here. And I'm going to harken back to Camp Kern circa 2007. Me and Tom Hansen were busting myths. Okay. So this, I came across this article. I thought it was super helpful. This is going to kind of summarize a lot of what we've already talked tonight. I recommend you. This is not in our market, but this is the Herald Tribune, which I think is Florida, Sarasota. But this Real Estate Pro, I want to look at this Real Estate Pro. So we talked about the case, and he says there's a lot of. Here's what it says: for those who missed the declarations in the media, which we showed earlier in the video tonight. Oops, sorry. Let me get you on here. That this outcome will render transacting in real estate almost free, protect consumers, and make home ownership affordable. Once again, I hate to burst your bubble, the settlement does none of that. Here's the truth. All right, number one, here's a myth. Number one myth, the settlement forces brokers to reduce their compensation. False. Busted. The settlement in no way establishes a standard or limitation on realtors for what they may charge, nor services they elect to deliver. Those fees have always been negotiable, and there has never been any collective bargaining. In every market, there's a wide variety of fees. So like New York might be different than California, might be different than Chicago, might be different than Cincinnati. Just as there are levels of marketing, service, and competence. So he's also saying you get what you can get, you might get what you pay for in terms of the real estate professional that you're getting. So this doesn't force brokers to reduce their compensation. It's never been the case. It's always been negotiable, and they're not forced to change it now. So number one, busted. Thank you, Budge Husky. Is his name Budge Husky? That is awesome. I didn't see it yet. Budge Husky. What an amazing name. Look at that guy. Man, if I could look that sharp for X amount of years in real estate, it's a great suit. And his name's Budge Husky. I mean, I could brand the heck out of that name. Number two, myth. The settlement will, for the first time, allow sellers to no longer pay compensation for an agent bringing the buyer. False. There has never been an obligation for a seller to pay buyer agent compensation. We showed that tonight. But he says, yet it's a practice that's worked well. Why does it work well? Okay, why does it work well for sellers to pay the buyer agent compensation? Because sellers usually have more money. They've owned the home for a little bit. They've got a little equity. If you want to spur on economic development, you don't want to tack on a ton of costs to the buyer. Because again, they're coming up with closing costs and down payment. And they have to pay the buyer's agent too. That's gonna slow down the housing industry. It's gonna slow down the economy. And so the reason why it's worked well is it's worked well. Like it's helpful when the sellers have equity and they say, yeah, we'll carve out 3% for the buyer so that I can help sell my house. Keep everything moving here. Everybody kind of gets what they want. So what good old Budge is saying is that a past rule requiring an offer of some amount of compensation was a rule of display on the realtor-owned MLS. Yet it could have been anything. Could have been as low as $1. That limitation was removed today, and the MLS accepts all listings regardless of buyer agent consideration. So it doesn't mean this settlement doesn't mean that sellers no longer pay compensation for an agent bringing them to the buyer, but they can no longer list it on the MLS. So number two, busted. Okay, number three, number three myth. The settlement prohibits sellers from paying a commission to a buyer's agent and relieves sellers of the financial burden. Fact check, false. The mandate restricts properties with an offer of buyer agent compensation from displaying on association-owned MLS. We'll talk about that tonight. Yet the practice can't be restricted in any other form of marketing, which means sellers may still elect to pay buyer agent compensation to differentiate their properties. While sellers can elect not to pay buyer agent compensation, that doesn't mean they will avoid the economics, as buyers may write into any offer a contingency requiring the seller to cover the costs or request other concessions. So let me break that down. You as a seller can choose not to pay, and you can do that now. You can choose not to pay any commission for the buyer's agent. The problem to you as a seller is you lose exposure. What you want as a seller is people coming to buy your house. The more people, the better. If you choose not to pay their agent and the buyer has to pay them instead, does that buyer want to come to your house? It's just like, just think about this logically, guys. It doesn't make sense, okay? You as a seller, and I've already pushed back on one of my sellers. He's like, I don't want to pay the agent. I'm like, do you want to sell your house? Do you want exposure? Because the price you talk about, what you're trying to get, you're going to need to get as many people coming to that house as possible. And if you don't offer any buyer agency compensation, you're going to get a lot less buyers coming, because it's not just the mean, evil, greedy real estate agents, right? It's the buyers who will have to shoulder that. I just showed you that in the buyer broker agency agreement. If they're not getting that full 3% or whatever they're agreed to, they do have to pay for that. So do they want to go put an offer on that house when it costs them more out of pocket to pay for their agent to buy the house? No. That's why I'm like, this is not going to change much. I have a hard time believing this is going to change much. All right, back to it. So sellers that doesn't mean you're not going to avoid the economics, and you can still offer concessions. Okay. So number three. Settlement prohibits sellers from paying a commission to a buyer's agent and relieves sellers of financial burden. Busted. Okay, number 4. The settlement will serve to meaningfully lower prices and make home ownership affordable again. I realize now that you cannot see this. All right. Number 4, the settlement will serve to meaningfully lower prices and make home. A lot of headlines on this, like, all right, now home ownership is affordable because you're going to pay real estate agents less. Come on, guys. Nope. Values in real estate are determined by supply and demand. Say it with me. Values in real estate are determined by supply and demand. Economics 101. Fees in a real estate transaction represent additional expenses, yet these include not only commissions, but many other related charges. Now, he says, should real estate commissions, let's say they are reduced by 1% because of the compression, and that $500,000 home, which on a 3% commission is $15,000, will now cost $495,000. So you went down 1%, $5,000. Not only is the potential impact marginal at best, from $500 to $495 in terms of making home ownership affordable again, but do you think the seller now believes the home is worth less and will happily give the difference to the buyer? I'll ask you, if you as a seller agree to pay less in commission, do you think your home is worth any less? No. You still you want the most for your home, right? You still want to get that money, and you should. It's your home. But do you think the seller now believes the home is worth any less and will happily give the difference to the buyer? The reason home ownership is increasingly less affordable is not agent commissions. It's that homes in our market have significantly risen in value these last few years. Why? Say it with me. Supply and demand. Number 4, busted. Okay, number 5. The settlement is a win for buyers who will now be able to negotiate the fee for representation. Questionable is what he says. Good old budge. For readers who have purchased homes, it's more likely that you were happy to have the seller compensate your agent so you didn't have to. So if you bought a home, you're like, yeah, that was great. Seller paid for my agent. Didn't cost me anything. That was great. For buyers who had to provide the down payment and closing expenses, having the commission paid by the seller and incorporated in home price allowed them to finance the amount over time instead of coming up with additional cash at closing. So what he's saying there is, like, the seller's paying the 3%, but that's kind of wrapped into the overall price of the home. And so you as the buyer, in a roundabout way, we're already paying for the buyer's agent commission. You're just kind of doing it in the home of the price. And so you're financing it in a loan. And that's usually more palatable than having to pay $15,000 out of pocket alongside of closing costs and down payment costs. Make sense? So yes, the answer is you as buyers can now negotiate fees for representation, but talked about this already on, in this hour plus we've been on here. How long been on? Hour 10. Getting hoarse here. So this one, questionably busted. All right, number 6, last one. And I'm going to get off. The settlement will result in significant restitution to consumers who were harmed over recent years in a transaction by realtors. False. This settlement is huge, yet when one divides the amount by the number of potentially qualifying consumers, it works out to be about $10 per person. So there you go. Those benefiting are the attorneys who have submitted a request to the court for over $80 million in fees. So there you go. You guys are all mad at real estate agents. It's the attorneys who are getting 80 million bucks and you're getting 10 bucks. Okay. All right. As a real estate professional for over 40 years, this guy right here, Budge Husky, over 40 years. I love it. I've had the privilege of working with realtors who represent the public in what is likely their largest investment. What I have witnessed are the countless situations where an agent has gone above and beyond to help buyers realize their dreams and sellers maximize their returns, often serving in ways far beyond their job description. If you ever talk to a real estate agent or you guys know any friends, ask them about how they've gone above and beyond. Just ask them. Now, look, I understand this is written by a real estate professional, and it's going to kind of pat our backs here a little bit, but like, this is a hard job. Everyone would like to see costs lowered, yet I do not see the Department of Justice going after attorneys or other professions we wish would charge less. Fair point. I always believed in the concept of free enterprise. If one is willing to assume the risk of running a business, one may do so at rates that allow a reasonable return for the capital investment and time. So Budge Husky is a red meat eating American capitalist, and God bless him. As my dad would say during his 60-year career, you wake up every day unemployed and have to find a job. It's true. As a real estate agent, you gotta find someone to hire you every single day. We don't have 401ks. We don't have retirement plans. We're not getting a salary. He says, then you spend out of pocket and you don't make a cent unless you achieve someone else's goals, unless you do that retainer fee, Budge. But generally speaking, and this is how I run my business, I don't get paid unless you buy a house and close on that house that you wanted, or you sell a house and get that check that you wanted. So tons of upfront costs and risk and a lot of out-of-pocket expenses for real estate agents to run our business, and marketing and time and gas and websites and personnel. I can show you my P&L. There are a lot of expenses on it. So yes, to wrap up here, this final paragraph, the brokerage community has always adapted to best represent buyers and sellers whenever there is a shift in the environment, and we will again. Yet when an industry I love is singled out in justifications for false reasons, I will not be quiet. And nor should you, Budge Husky. I salute you. What's going on here? I was trying to make his picture bigger. Bam, bam, bam. Look at that guy. That is a real estate professional. Look at me. I'm in a stinking t-shirt on YouTube. All right. One day I'll be as good as Budge. Brandon Carpenter, what's up? Self-employed, high risk, high reward. And I'm here for it. I started multiple businesses that failed before I got into real estate. But I would rather take the risk with the chance of reward. And it's worked out well for my family, but you've got to earn it. You've got to earn it for sure. So it's a tough job. And if you don't know this, what's the stat? I want to say it's 80% of people who become a real estate agent are out of the business within, I think it's 5 years. They're out of the business, 80% turnover. So like that, I knew those numbers getting into it, and I'm like, never tell me the odds. And it's worked out. So, and I love this career, and I love people like Budge Husky. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. There are just a few headlines. I'm tired and my throat hurts of some different communities that are coming up. One on the west side, and $1 million plus homes to the Cincinnati's west side. And on 8 Mile over in Forest Hills, Anderson Township, 36 townhomes are going in. So I'll try to cover these at a different time. But I am tired and would like to go home and see my kids. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this cleared up some of the fact from fiction, busting some myths about this settlement. As always, if you are looking for a real estate agent in the Cincinnati area or Northern Kentucky, hire me. I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. Myself and my team, we're growing. I'm interviewing agents this week. Colin, when are you going to come on my team, man? It's about time. Let's talk about it. So Yeah, we're growing. We'd love to help you. If you're watching this, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, stay in your Clanio. Appreciate you, care about you. If any updates on here are significant, I'll let you guys know. Otherwise, we'll keep rolling. Have a wonderful, amazing, happy Easter. Hope you have a good time with your family and celebrate all the goodness that is the story. Appreciate you guys. Stay in your Clanio. We will see you next time.